Ladies, we trust our family with our lives. Literally. But what happens when the hand pouring your water is also poisoning the well? Tonight's story is about a retired nurse who realized her sudden health decline wasn't age. It was murder in slow motion. And she didn't just call the police. She prescribed a dose of revenge that her daughter-in-law will never swallow. Hello, ladies. Mary here. You know the old saying about the cobbler's children having no shoes? Well, I think the medical version is that the nurse is always the worst patient. We spend our lives taking care of everyone else and monitoring every beep of the monitor, but when it comes to our own bodies, we think we are invincible. We think we know better. Tonight, I am going to tell you about Evelyn. She was a woman who spent 40 years saving hearts, only to have her own broken by the people she trusted to protect it. My name is Evelyn, and I have spent my entire adult life listening to the sound of other people's hearts. As the head nurse of the cardiac unit at St. Jude's for 20 years, I could tell you if a patient was going into atrial fibrillation just by looking at the vein in their neck. I was precise. I was organized. I was the woman the interns were terrified of, and the patients sent Christmas cards to. So when I retired 2 years ago at 64, I had a plan. I had my pension. I had my fully paid off colonial house in the suburbs of Chicago, and I had my health regimen. I have a condition called ventricular tachycardia. It sounds scary, and it can be. My heart essentially decides to run a marathon while I am sitting on the couch, but it is manageable. Completely manageable with a medication called Sodacur. For 10 years I took my little white pill at 8 in the morning and 8 at night. I never missed a dose. My heart was a metronome, steady, reliable, boring. That changed 6 months ago. I had a small episode in the garden. It was nothing really. The heat was high, and I had forgotten to drink water. I felt a flutter. I sat down on the grass a little too quickly and bruised my hip, but my son Justin acted like I had suffered a massive stroke. Justin is 32. He has his father's blue eyes and unfortunately his father's lack of financial sense. He calls himself a day trader, which I have learned is a fancy word for unemployed gambler. He has a wife named Tara who is 28 and describes herself as a wellness influencer. She is the kind of girl who thinks yoga cures cancer and that chemical is a bad word. "Mom, you can't live alone anymore," Justin said, standing over me in the emergency room, while the doctor assured us it was just dehydration. "What if you had hit your head? What if no one found you?" I tried to argue. I told him I was fine. But Tara was there holding my hand, with her perfectly manicured fingers, squeezing just a little too hard. "Evelyn, we are family," she said. Her voice was like oat milk, bland and trying too hard to be wholesome. "We are renting that awful apartment downtown anyway. Why don't we move in just for a while? We can help you manage the house. We can take care of you." I should have said no. I value my privacy. I value my silence, but I looked at Justin. He looked tired. He looked thin. I knew the markets had been rough, and I suspected they were struggling. My mother's heart overruled my nurse's brain. They moved in the following weekend. The invasion was subtle at first. Tara bought organic kale and threw out my white bread. She replaced my heavy curtains with sheer linen because she said the house needed to breathe. I bit my tongue. I told myself it was nice to have life in the house again. Then came the medication talk. It was a Tuesday morning. I was standing at the kitchen counter, sorting my weekly pill organizer. I have a system. Sodacur for the heart, a statin for cholesterol, a multivitamin for luck. Tara walked in wearing yoga pants and a sports bra, holding a green smoothie that smelled like lawn clippings. "Oh, Evelyn," she said, wrinkling her nose. "Look at all those toxins. Big Pharma really has you hooked, doesn't it?" "It is not toxins, Tara," I said, snapping the plastic lid shut. "It is science. This medicine keeps my heart beating in a regular rhythm. Without it, I could go into cardiac arrest." I know," she said, walking over and putting a hand on my shoulder. "But it is so much for you to manage. Justin told me you forgot to take them the day you fell in the garden. That was a lie. I had not forgotten. I was dehydrated, but Justin had rewritten the narrative to justify their presence. Why don't you let me handle this, she said. I am so organized. I track everything for my blog. I can fill your organizer every Sunday night. You won't even have to think about it. You can just relax. I looked at her. She seemed sincere. She seemed helpful, and truthfully, my hands had been shaking a little lately. The arthritis was creeping into my knuckles, making the childproof caps a struggle. Are you sure? I asked. It is a strict regimen. Dosage is critical. Evelyn, please, she laughed. I can count pills. Let me take care of you. That is why we are here. I handed her the organizer. I handed her the orange prescription bottles. It was the biggest mistake of my life. For the first 2 weeks, everything seemed fine. Tara would bring me my little paper cup with my pills every morning with a glass of filtered water. Here is your battery pack, she would joke. I would swallow them. I would thank her. I would go sit in the sunroom and read my book. But by the 3rd week, something felt wrong. It started as a subtle unease, a feeling of heaviness in my chest, like I had swallowed a stone. I would walk up the stairs and have to stop halfway to catch my breath. I checked my pulse. It was a little fast, 90 beats per minute resting. High for me, but not dangerous. I told myself it was stress. Having 2 young people in the house was an adjustment. Justin was always watching loud financial news on the television. Tara was always filming videos in the living room, asking me to move out of the frame because I was ruining her aesthetic. Then came the night of the dinner party. Tara wanted to host a dinner for her influencer friends. She wanted to show off the house. My house. I sat at the end of the table, feeling like a ghost in my own dining room. The conversation was vapid. They talked about cleanses and manifesting wealth. Suddenly I felt it. The flutter. It wasn't the little skip of a heartbeat you get when you are startled. It was a chaotic, terrifying drumming. It felt like a bird was trapped inside my rib cage, beating its wings against the bone. My vision blurred. The room tilted. The sound of their laughter stretched out and warped like a record slowing down. I gripped the tablecloth. I tried to speak, but my breath was gone. Justin looked at me. His face wasn't worried. It was annoyed. Mom, are you okay? He asked. I need my chest. I gasped. Tara stood up. She didn't rush to me. She looked at her guests with a performative sad smile. Oh dear, she said. She gets these panic attacks when she is overstimulated. I think it is past her bedtime. Panic attacks. I tried to shake my head. I tried to say no. This is ventricular tachycardia. This is physiological. But my body betrayed me. My legs gave out, and I slumped forward onto the table, knocking over a glass of red wine. It spread across the white tablecloth like a gunshot wound. The room didn't go black, but it went gray. I was conscious, locked inside a body that was vibrating like a tuning fork. I could hear the guests muttering. Poor thing. Is she okay? Maybe we should go. I felt hands on me. Not the gentle, professional hands of a paramedic, but the impatient grip of my son. Come on, Mom, Justin grunted, hoisting me up by my armpit. Let's get you upstairs. You're making a scene. Ambulance, I whispered. My lips felt numb. Call 911. No need for that, Tara chirped, addressing her guests, while practically shoving me toward the stairs. She just needs to lie down. It's the wine. It interacts with her meds. So silly of her to drink it. I hadn't touched the wine. Not a drop. They dragged me up the stairs, my feet dragged on the carpet. My heart was still hammering, erratic, terrifying rhythm. As a nurse, I visualized what was happening inside my chest. A normal heart beats like a waltz. Lube-dub. Lube-dub. My heart was beating like a machine gun. The electrical signals were misfiring in the lower chambers. If it didn't convert back to a normal rhythm soon, my blood pressure would bottom out and I would code. They dumped me onto my bed. Just breathe, Evelyn, Tara said, throwing a blanket over me. You're working yourself up. It's all in your head. She turned off the light and closed the door. I lay in the dark, clutching my chest, counting the beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Too fast. I did the only thing I could do. I performed a vagal maneuver on myself, bearing down as if I were trying to have a bowel movement, triggering the vagus nerve to slow the heart rate. It took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of terror alone in the dark. Finally, with a sickening thud, my heart skipped a beat and settled back into a shaky but regular rhythm. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my nurse's brain racing faster than my heart had. Why? I had taken my evening dose at 7 p.m. Tara had handed it to me. I swallowed it. Sotalol has a half-life of 12 hours. I should have been fully beta-blocked. Breakthrough arrhythmias are rare for me. Was the disease progressing? Was my heart finally failing after 66 years? The next morning, I felt like I had been run over by a truck. My limbs were heavy. My head swam. Tara came in at 9 a.m. She looked fresh, glowing, holding a tray with avocado toast and my little paper cup of pills. Morning sleepyhead, she said, pulling open the curtains and letting the blinding sun hit my face. How are we feeling? A little hungover? I didn't drink, Tara, I croaked. Of course you didn't, she smiled, setting the tray down. Here. Take your meds. You need to get back on track. She handed me the cup. 2 white round pills. I looked at them. They looked exactly like the Sodacur generic I had been taking for years, round, white, scored down the middle. I looked at Tara. She was watching me, not with concern but with expectation. What's wrong, she asked. Take them. I feel nauseous, I lied. Can I take them in a bit? No, she said, her voice sharpening. Consistency is key, Evelyn. You told me that yourself. Swallow them. She held the glass of water out to me. It wasn't an offer, it was a command. I took the pills. I swallowed them. Good girl, she said. Now eat your toast. I have to go edit the photos from last night. The lighting was tragic, by the way. Thanks for that, she left. An hour later, I didn't feel better. I felt worse. The flutter was back. A low hum in my chest, threatening to rise into a scream. I sat up. I was a head nurse. I didn't survive 40 years in there by ignoring the data. Hypothesis 1. The disease is worsening. Hypothesis 2. The medication is expired. Hypothesis 3. The medication is not being absorbed. I needed to see the bottle. I waited until I heard Tara start her blender in the kitchen, her morning protein shake ritual. It was loud. I slipped out of bed. My legs were shaky. I crept down the hallway to the guest bathroom, which Tara and Justin had claimed as their own. That's where she kept the pill organizer and the stock bottles. The door was ajar. I pushed it open. The counter was a mess of makeup, hair products, and supplement powders, maca root, ashwagandha, collagen peptides, and there, tucked behind a tub of expensive moisturizer, were my orange prescription bottles. I grabbed the one labeled Sotalol 80 milligrams. I shook it. It rattled. I tried to open it. My arthritic fingers fumbled with the child-proof cap. Push down and turn. I gritted my teeth. Push down and turn. It popped open. I poured a few pills into my palm. They looked right. White. Round. I brought one up to my eye. I squinted. They looked right. But they felt dusty. Sodacur usually has a hard pharmaceutical coating. These left a tiny residue of white powder on my skin. Evelyn. I froze. Tara was standing in the doorway. The blender had stopped. She was holding her green smoothie, and her eyes were locked on the open bottle in my hand. What are you doing? She asked. Her voice was ice cold. I was checking the expiration date. I stammered, my heart skipping a beat. I felt off. Tara walked into the room. She snatched the bottle from my hand. You are becoming paranoid, Evelyn, she said, screwing the cap back on so tight, her knuckles turned white. This is exactly why you can't manage your own meds. You get confused. You mix things up. She shoved the bottle into the medicine cabinet and slammed the mirror shut. Go back to bed, she ordered. Before you have another episode. I walked back to my room. But I didn't get back in bed. I went to my desk. I opened the bottom drawer and pulled out my old nursing kit. Inside was a stethoscope, a blood pressure cuff, and a small, powerful jeweler's loop I used to use to identify splinter hemorrhages. I looked at my hand. The tiny smear of white powder from the pill was still there on my palm. I touched the tip of my tongue to it. It didn't taste bitter like a beta blocker. It tasted sweet. Sweet. The residue on my palm tasted like powdered sugar. I sat at my desk staring at my hand. Beta blockers are bitter. They are metallic and chemical, and they linger on the tongue like a bad memory. They are not sweet. My heart gave a nervous thump. Not an arrhythmia this time, but the cold, hard thud of realization. I wasn't just sick. I was being managed. I needed a sample. A whole pill. But Tara guarded that orange bottle like it was the nuclear codes. She watched me swallow every single dose. She checked under my tongue, sometimes playfully tapping my chin, as if I were a naughty child. I needed to pull a maneuver. I had seen 1,000 desperate addicts pull in there. I needed to cheek the pill. At 8 p.m., Tara knocked on my door. She was wearing a clay face mask that cracked when she smiled. "Time for your vitamins, Evelyn," she said, holding the paper cup. I was sitting in my armchair, wrapped in a shawl, shivering even though the thermostat was set to 72. Withdrawal from the medication was making my body haywire. I reached for the cup. My hand trembled. This time I didn't try to hide the tremor. I exaggerated it. I spilled a little water on my shawl. "Oh, Evelyn," Tara sighed, "you are making a mess. Here, let me help." She brought the cup to my lips. I opened my mouth. She tipped the pill in. I used my tongue to slide the pill, instantly between my lower gum and my cheek. It was a risky move. If she asked me to speak, I would garble it. I took a large gulp of water and swallowed loudly. I opened my mouth and lifted my tongue. A classic patient trick. The pill was safely tucked away in the buccal cavity. "Good job," Tara said, patting my head. "Sleep well. Don't worry about the noise downstairs. Justin is gaming." She left. I waited 10 seconds. Then I spit the pill into a tissue. It was already starting to dissolve. The white coating was slimy. I locked my bedroom door. I went to my desk and turned on the high-intensity lamp I used for needlepoint. I pulled out my jeweler's loop, the one I used to examine diamond settings in a past life where I cared about jewelry. I placed the soggy pill under the lens. I magnified it 10x. A real pharmaceutical pill is precision engineered. The edges are sharp. The scoring is perfectly centered. The logo is laser etched or stamped with distinct dyes. This pill looked like a lunar landscape. The edges were crumbly. The scoring down the middle was uneven, as if it had been done by hand, and the texture was porous. It looked like compressed dust. I took a pin from my sewing kit and scraped the surface. It flaked away easily. I put a flake on my tongue. Sugar. Pure, unadulterated sugar. I sat back in my chair, my heart racing dangerously fast. They weren't just splitting my pills. They were manufacturing counterfeits. Tara was an influencer. She had pill presses for her custom supplements she sold online. She had empty capsules. She had binders. She was pressing sugar and flour into the shape of a generic Sodalol tablet. But why? Money. My prescription cost $40 a month with insurance. It wasn't expensive enough to steal. Then it hit me, it wasn't about saving $40. It was about the life insurance. If I died of natural causes, specifically a heart attack caused by my known pre-existing condition, the payout was $500,000, double indemnity if it was accidental, but they wouldn't risk that. A heart failure and sleep was clean. No autopsy if the doctor expects it. They were killing me. Slowly, methodically, by removing the only thing keeping my heart from exploding. I needed proof. Chemical proof. My eyes were good, but a court wouldn't accept. It tasted sweet from a confused old woman. I grabbed my phone. I dialed a number I hadn't called in 2 years. Marge. Marge was the head of the pathology lab at St. Jude's. She smoked Virginia Slims, had a voice like a chainsaw, and trusted no one. She was my best friend. Evelyn, she answered on the second ring. It is 9 p.m. You better not be dead. I need a toxicology screen, Marge, I whispered. Off the books. On who? She asked. On me. And I need an analysis of a pharmaceutical solid. There was a pause, the kind of pause where a professional shifts gears from friend to expert. Bring it in, she said. I can't drive, I said. They took my keys. They say I get confused behind the wheel. I heard the flick of a lighter and a long exhale. I will be in your driveway in 20 minutes. Put the sample in a sterile container. If you don't have one, use a Tupperware. And Evelyn, yes, Marge, don't let them see you. I hung up. I found a small plastic container I used for beads. I dropped the soggy sugar pill inside. Now I had a bigger problem. If I wasn't taking the medicine, I was essentially killing myself just as fast as they were. I needed real Sodacure. Immediately. I scanned my room. Think, Evelyn. You are a preparer. You always have a backup. The travel bag. I hadn't traveled since my trip to Florida 3 years ago, but I always kept a go bag, packed in the back of my closet, just in case. I dragged the stepladder to the closet. I climbed up, pushing past the old winter coats. I pulled down the dusty floral duffel bag. I unzipped the side pocket. There it was, an old prescription bottle. Expired 6 months ago. I checked the contents. 6 pills. Expired medication loses potency, but it doesn't turn into poison. 80% potency was better than 0%. I took one out and swallowed it dry. It tasted bitter. It tasted like life. I looked at the clock. 9:25 p.m. I saw headlights sweep across the ceiling. Marge was here. Hello, ladies. Mary here. They say the best actresses are not in Hollywood. They are in nursing homes and hospitals and living rooms across America. Women who smile when they are in pain. Women who pretend they didn't hear that insult. Women who act frail to make men feel strong. Well, Evelyn was about to give the performance of a lifetime. She had the script. She had the props. And she certainly had the motivation. The next morning I woke up and put on my costume. I didn't choose my usual crisp linen trousers and silk blouse. I chose an old flannel nightgown that was slightly stained at the cuff. I left my hair unbrushed. I let my glasses sit crooked on my nose. If they wanted a confused dying old woman, I was going to give them King Lear. I shuffled down to the kitchen at 9 o'clock. Tara was there buzzing with the energy of a woman who thought she had just won the lottery. She had already called the contractor back. I could see them in the backyard, pointing at my hydrangeas and discussing xeriscaping. Good morning, Evelyn, she chirped coming inside. You look rested. I stared at the refrigerator for a long moment before answering. Who is that man? I asked, pointing a shaking finger at the window. Is that the gardener? Tara rolled her eyes, but she tried to hide it with a smile. That is the contractor, Evelyn. We talked about this. The renovations. Oh. I blinked slowly. Right. The walls. The flow. I sat down at the table, my hands trembled. I let out a heavy sigh that rattled in my chest. Tara, I said, my voice thin and reedy, I have been thinking about what the doctor said. About the end. She stopped wiping the counter. She turned to me like a predator scenting blood. What about it, Evelyn? I don't want the government to take the house, I whispered, leaning in conspiratorially. If I die in a facility, they will take everything for the fees. I read it in a magazine. That wasn't true at all, but Tara didn't know probate law. She only knew Instagram algorithms. Her eyes widened. She put down the rag. Oh my God, she said. You are right. They call it the death tax. We have to do it now, I said. I want to sign the deed over to you and Justin. Next week, I want to see you enjoy it before I go. Tara practically vibrated. She yelled for Justin, who was in the living room playing video games. Justin, get in here. Your mom wants to talk business." He came in looking disheveled and smelling of stale energy drinks. When I repeated the offer, I saw the conflict in his face. It was the war between his guilt and his debt. Debt 1. "Mom, are you sure?" he asked. "It is a big step." "I am tired, Justin," I said, patting his hand. "I just want to rest. I want you to have the asset. You can leverage it. Build your future, leverage." That was the magic word. "Great," Tara said, clapping her hands. "I will download the forms. We can do a notary next Friday. We will make a special dinner." "A celebration. A celebration," I repeated. "Yes. That sounds lovely." They spent the rest of the day in a frenzy of greed. They were on the phone with banks. They were looking at luxury cars online. They were so distracted by their imaginary wealth that they didn't notice what I was doing. I was cleaning, or at least that is what it looked like. I told them I wanted to organize the kitchen drawers one last time before I lost my faculties. Tara laughed and said, "Knock yourself out, Evelyn." While they were in the living room arguing about whether to buy a Porsche or a Tesla, I was installing the eyes. I had ordered them overnight using a prepaid Visa card. I kept in my emergency bag 3 small black cubes. They looked like USB wall chargers. You plugged them in and they recorded everything to an SD card. I plugged one into the outlet above the kitchen counter, right next to where Tara kept her blender. I plugged the second one in the dining room facing the table. I plugged the third one in the hallway, facing the bathroom door. They were functional chargers. I even plugged my old toaster into the kitchen one to sell the illusion. Now I just needed them to perform. That evening, Tara announced she was making me a special calming tea before bed. "It has valerian root," she said. "It will help with the confusion." I sat in the living room and watched her go into the kitchen. I saw her back turned to me. I saw her reach for the cabinet. I waited. She came back 5 minutes later with a steaming mug. "Here you go, sweetie," she said. "Drink up." I took the mug. I pretended to sip. "It smells delicious," I said. I waited until she went back to sit with Justin. I poured the tea into the potted ficus plant next to my chair. That poor plant was going to be the most medicated vegetation in Illinois by the end of the week. I went to bed early. I lay in the dark, listening to them celebrate downstairs. I heard corks popping. I heard them toasting to the Van Cess. At 2 a.m., when the house was finally silent, I crept downstairs. I went to the kitchen. I pulled the little black cube from the wall. I popped out the SD card. I went back to my room and inserted it into my laptop. I put on my headphones. I clicked play. I watched Marge's headlights cut through the darkness of my driveway. She didn't come to the front door because Marge knows better. She idled near the garage where the shadows are deepest. I put the plastic bead container with the soggy sugar pill into my pocket. I wrapped my shawl tight. I opened my bedroom door. Downstairs, the house sounded like a war zone. Justin was playing one of those video games where soldiers scream at each other. Explosions rattled the floorboards. Go left," he shouted at the television. "Cover me." The irony was bitter. He was screaming for cover in a game while leaving his own mother completely exposed in real life. I crept down the stairs. I stayed close to the wall where the wood doesn't creak. I could see the back of Justin's head over the sofa. He was wearing noise-canceling headphones. Perfect. I slipped past the living room and into the kitchen. The side door leads to the garage. I unlocked the deadbolt. It clicked. I held my breath. Justin didn't move. I stepped out into the cold night air. The wind bit through my thin pajamas, but I didn't care. I ran to Marge's car. She rolled down the window. The smell of menthol cigarettes wafted out. Marge looked at me with eyes that had seen 30 years of trauma cases. She didn't say hello. She just looked at my gray skin and my trembling hands. "You look like death warmed over, Evelyn," she rasped. I handed her the container. "Run a full spectrum analysis," I said. "Check for active ingredients. Check for binders, and Marge, check for poisons." She took the container and held it up to the dashboard light. If this is what I think it is, she said, her voice low and dangerous, I am going to come back here and break your son's legs myself. Not yet, I whispered. I need the paper trail first, she nodded. I will call you tomorrow. Do not eat anything they give you. Do not drink anything they pour. I watched her back out of the driveway. I waited until her taillights disappeared before I slipped back inside. I locked the door. I crept back upstairs. Justin was still screaming at the TV. He hadn't even noticed I was gone. I took another one of the expired real pills from my hidden stash just to be safe. Then I sat in my chair and waited for the sun. The next morning, Tara arrived with her tray at 8 o'clock sharp. She was humming. Rise and shine, Evelyn, she chirped. It is a beautiful day. She set the tray down. Oatmeal in the paper cup. 2 fresh fake pills. I looked at her. I looked at the face of a woman who was actively murdering me and smiled. Thank you, Tara, I said. I feel a little better today. Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. She looked disappointed. Really, she asked. That is. Good. Maybe the rest helped. I took the cup. I performed my cheeking maneuver perfectly. I drank the water. I showed her my empty mouth. Great, she said. Well, eat up. I have a contractor coming at noon. We are thinking of knocking down the wall between the kitchen and the dining room. It really blocks the flow of qi. She left. I spit the sugar pills into the toilet and flushed them. At noon my phone buzzed. It was a text from Marge. Meet me at the park. Bring the dog. I don't have a dog. That was code. It meant I have the results and they are bad. I put on my coat. I walked downstairs. Tara was in the kitchen, pointing at the wall and talking to a man with a tape measure. I am going for a walk, I announced. Tara spun around. You can't go for a walk. You are too weak. I feel strong today, I said firmly. The fresh air will do me good. Besides, I don't want to be in the way of your renovations. She hesitated. She didn't want me out of her sight, but she also didn't want me hearing her talk about tearing down my house. Fine, she said. But stay on the block and take your phone. I walked out the front door. I walked past the block. I walked 4 blocks to the small park near the elementary school. Marge was sitting on a bench feeding pigeons. She was holding a manila envelope. I sat down next to her. Tell me, I said. Marge didn't look at me. She watched the pigeons. It is fondant, she said. What? I asked. Cake fondant, Evelyn. Sugar. Water. Gelatin, and a little bit of titanium dioxide to make it white. She handed me the envelope. There is 0 sodalol in that pill. 0, it is a confection. And it gets worse. How can it get worse? I asked. I looked at the compression marks, Marge said. These weren't made by hand. They were pressed. Machine pressed. The striations on the side match a handheld rotary pill press. You can buy them on the dark web or sometimes on sketchy import sites. I felt a cold chill that had nothing to do with the wind. A pill press. That meant premeditation. That meant investment. Tara hadn't just decided to split pills to save money. She had bought equipment. She had manufactured a mold. This was an industrial effort to end my life. And Justin? I asked the question that terrified me most. Marge reached into the envelope and pulled out a second sheet of paper. I ran a partial print scan on the pill you gave me. I know it is not admissible in court because I don't have a warrant, but I have your son's prints on file from when he volunteered at the hospital 10 years ago. She paused. His thumbprint is on the pill, Evelyn. Not on the bottle. On the pill itself. The world stopped. My son. My baby boy. He hadn't just watched. He had helped. He had likely pressed the lever. I took the envelope. My hands were steady now. The grief was gone, replaced by a cold, hard fury. Thank you, Marge, I said. What are you going to do? She asked. Do you want me to call the cops? No, I said, standing up. The police will arrest them and they will be out on bail in 24 hours, claiming it was a misunderstanding or a prank. They will say I am senile. I looked back toward my house. I need them to confess, I said. I need them to hang themselves, and I know exactly how to give them the rope. I walked back home. When I entered the kitchen, Tara was laughing with the contractor. "Oh good, you are back," she said. "We were just saying this wall has to go. It is load-bearing, but we can put in a beam. It will cost about $10,000. I smiled at her. A genuine, warm, terrifying smile. "You know, Tara," I said, "you are right. This house does need a change. In fact, I have been thinking, why wait for nature to take its course?" Her eyes lit up. "What do you mean, Evelyn?" "I mean, I think it is time we discussed the estate," I said. "I want to sign everything over now." It wasn't a neighbor coming to complain about the noise. It was a squad of 6 uniformed officers and 2 detectives in plain clothes. And standing behind them, looking like the Grim Reaper in a trench coat, was Marge. "Police! Get on the ground!" The command was loud enough to rattle the windows. Tara screamed. She tried to stop her forward momentum, but her heels slipped on the champagne puddle. She went down hard, knees hitting the hardwood floor. Before she could scramble up, an officer was on her, zip-tying her hands behind her back. Justin dropped the deed. He threw his hands up, looking like a terrified child, caught stealing from the cookie jar. "Don't shoot," he blubbered. "It was her idea. She made me do it." I watched them. I didn't flinch. I stood by the table, smooth as the marble they wanted to buy, and watched my son throw his wife under the bus in less than 3 seconds. A detective walked over to me. He was a tall man with tired eyes. "Detective Miller. I had treated his wife for a heart attack 5 years ago." He remembered me. "Mrs. Vance," he said, nodding respectfully, "we received the video file from your friend Marge." "And the lab results, is it enough?" I asked. "Attempted murder, conspiracy, elder abuse, and manufacturing a controlled substance." Miller listed them off like he was reading a grocery list. "Yeah, it's enough." Tara was thrashing on the floor. Her face was pressed against the rug. "She had bought with my credit card." "It's a lie," she shrieked. "It's a deep fake. She edited it. She's crazy." "Save it for the judge, lady," the officer holding her said, hauling her to her feet. Her mascara was running. Her wellness glow was gone, replaced by the blotchy red flush of panic. Justin looked at me. His eyes were wide and wet. "Mom," he pleaded. "Mom, tell them I didn't press the pills. I just watched. You can't let them take me, the loan sharks. If I go to jail, I can't pay them back." I walked over to him. I looked at the deed lying on the floor. Lot 4B, Okeechobee County, designated wetlands. "You should have thought about that before you leveraged a murder plot, Justin," I said softly. "But the money," he cried. "The $200,000. We borrowed it from bad people, Mom. If we don't pay it back next week, they're going to kill me. You have it. Give it back. Please." I looked at the detective. "Detective, is that money considered evidence in a fraud investigation?" Miller smirked. "Technically, since they wired it voluntarily to pay a debt that didn't exist, it's a civil matter. But since it's proceeds from a predatory loan obtained under false pretenses, we might have to freeze it, pending an investigation. Could take months. Maybe years." I looked back at Justin. "You hear that? It's frozen. Just like my heart was supposed to be." Justin's knees gave out. He collapsed sobbing. He wasn't crying because he was sorry. He was crying because he was ruined. He was going to prison, and even if he got out, he had a debt he could never pay. "Get them out of here," I said. "They are ruining the feng shui." The officers marched them out. I watched my son being guided out the door in handcuffs, the flashing blue lights from the cruisers painting the living room walls in a rhythmic, chaotic strobe. Tara screamed all the way to the car. She was yelling about her lawyer. She was yelling about her rights. She was yelling about her followers. Then the doors slammed. The sirens chirped. And they were gone. The house fell silent. Marge walked in. She kicked a piece of the broken champagne glass under the table. "Nice show, Evelyn," she rasped. "Although you really let the place go. That wall color is hideous." "I know," I said, picking up the bottle of Dom Perignon that was still half full. "But I have $200,000 to fix it now." I poured 2 glasses. One for me. One for Marge. To science, I said. To not dying, Marge replied. We clinked glasses. I took a sip. It was cold. It was crisp. And most importantly, it was real. The video file loaded on my screen. The angle was perfect. It captured the entire kitchen island and the sink. I saw myself wandering out of the room. Then I saw Tara. She didn't reach for the tea bags. She reached into her oversized purse, which was sitting on the counter. She pulled out a plastic bag, filled with white powder, and a small handheld device that looked like a heavy stapler. It was the pill press. She poured the powder into the device. She cranked the handle. Clack, clack, clack. 2 perfect round pills dropped onto the counter. Then Justin walked into the frame. He hugged her from behind. He kissed her neck. Is it done? He asked. His voice was clear on the recording, almost Tara said. She swept the sugar pills into her hand and dropped them into my morning cup. Then she took 2 real pills from my organizer and threw them into the garbage disposal. She flipped the switch. The disposal roared. How much longer do we have to do this? Justin asked. He sounded whiny. She is taking forever to kick the bucket. I thought you said withdrawal would trigger an event within a week. She is tough, Tara laughed. Old goat, but her heart is weak, Justin. Without the blockers, she is a ticking time bomb. One big shock. One bad night. That is all it will take. Then we get the insurance and the house. I just hate waiting, Justin sighed. The loan sharks are calling me every day. Relax, babe, Tara said, turning to kiss him. Just think about the money. $500,000 in life insurance. $800,000 in real estate. We will be rich. We just have to be patient and keep feeding her the sugar. I paused the video. I sat there in the silence of my room, my son. The boy I had nursed through chickenpox. The boy I had taught to ride a bike. He was standing in my kitchen discussing my murder because he owed money to loan sharks. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Just one. I wiped it away. That was the last tear I would ever shed for Justin Vance. I saved the video. I backed it up to the cloud. I emailed a copy to Marge. Then I went to sleep. I slept like a baby, because now I knew exactly what I had to do. The next morning was Friday, the day they planned to get the notary. I walked into the kitchen. Tara and Justin were eating pancakes. They were in high spirits. They had already listed my car on Craigslist, I noticed. Good morning, Mom, Justin said. Big day, we got the notary coming at 6. Are you ready to sign the deed? I sat down. I put on my best worried face. I wrung my hands together. I am ready, I said. But, oh dear. I didn't sleep a wink last night. I remembered something terrible. Tara stopped chewing. What did you remember, Evelyn? The letter, I whispered. From the IRS. I hid it because I was scared. What letter? Justin asked. His voice went tight. I owe back taxes, I lied. From when your father died, I didn't file correctly. They sent a letter saying there is a lien on the house. A lien. Justin dropped his fork. How much? $200,000, I said. And the letter said if it isn't paid by the end of the month, they will seize the property. That is next week, isn't it? The color drained from Tara's face. $200,000, she screeched. You owe the government $200,000? I think so, I said, starting to cry fake tears. I am so confused. That is why I want to give the house to you so you can fix it. I don't have the money. Justin and Tara exchanged a frantic look. I could see the wheels turning in their heads. They thought they were getting a free house. Now they were getting a house with a debt. Can we still transfer the deed? Tara asked Justin. Not with a tax lien, Justin muttered. The title won't clear. We have to pay it off first. We don't have $200,000, Tara hissed. But the house is worth $800,000, Justin whispered back. Plus the insurance policy. If we pay the lien, we still net over $1 million. I watched them. Greed is a powerful calculator. They were doing the math. If they spent $200,000 now, they would get $1.3 million later when I died. It was a terrifying return on investment. Mom, Justin said, turning to me, if we pay this debt, will you sign everything over immediately? The house, the insurance beneficiary, everything. Oh yes, I sobbed. I just want to be free of it. I want to go to the nursing home with a clear conscience. Okay, Justin said, standing up. Okay, we will handle it. Don't worry about the IRS. You are such a good boy, I said. They spent the rest of the day making frantic phone calls. I sat in the sunroom and listened. Justin didn't go to a bank. Banks take too long. He went to private lenders, the kind of people who break kneecaps if you don't pay. By 4 p.m. they had the money. They had taken out high-interest predatory loans against their future inheritance. They had leveraged themselves to the hilt. They transferred the money to the IRS account I had given them written on a slip of paper. They didn't know that account number belonged to a holding trust controlled by my attorney. They hadn't paid the government. They had paid me. It is done, Justin said, walking into the living room at 5 p.m. He was sweating. The debt is cleared. The notary will be here in an hour. Wonderful, I said. I will go get dressed. I want to look nice for the signing. Make sure you take your pill, Tara said, handing me the cup. We don't want you having an episode tonight. I took the sugar pill. I smiled. Don't worry, Tara, I said. My heart is ready. Hello, ladies. Mary here. There is nothing quite as dangerous as a premature victory lap. You see it in sports. You see it in politics, and you certainly see it in crime. When a criminal thinks they have crossed the finish line, they lower their guard, they get sloppy. They start spending money they don't have. Justin and Tara were about to pop the champagne, but they didn't realize the bottle was shaken, pointed right at their faces, and about to explode. The notary arrived at 6 p.m. sharp. His name was Mr. Pendergast, a small man with a briefcase that smelled of leather and stale coffee. Tara had set the dining room table like it was Thanksgiving. She had brought out my good china, the Lenox set I hadn't used since my husband's funeral. She had lit candles. She had even bought a bouquet of white lilies, which I found morbidly appropriate, given that she was actively trying to kill me. Please sit here, Mr. Pendergast, Tara cooed, pulling out a chair. We are just so relieved to get this settled. Evelyn has been so worried about her tax situation. I shuffled into the room, clutching my shawl. I looked at Mr. Pendergast with wide, watery eyes. Are you the man from the government? I asked, my voice trembling. No, ma'am, he said kindly. I'm just a notary public. I'm here to witness your signature on the quitclaim deed, transferring the property to your son and daughter-in-law. And the lien, I asked. Looking at Justin, the $200,000? It's taken care of, Mom, Justin said. He was sweating through his dress shirt. He tapped his foot nervously. We wired the money this morning. The house is free and clear. Once you sign this. It's safe, I repeated. That is good. I sat down. Tara placed the document in front of me. She handed me a pen. It was a heavy, expensive fountain pen she had probably bought just for this moment. Right here, Evelyn, she pointed to the line. Press hard. I held the pen over the paper. My hand shook. I let it hover there for a long, agonizing minute. Is something wrong? Tara asked. Her voice tight. I just want to make sure, I whispered. You promise to take care of me? You won't put me in a home? We promise, Justin said. He wouldn't meet my eyes. We will take care of you forever. Forever is a long time, I said. I signed my name. Evelyn Vance. Mr. Pendergast stamped the document. Clunk. The sound echoed in the silent room like a gavel. It is done, Mr. Pendergast said. Congratulations. Justin let out a breath that sounded like a tire deflating. He grabbed the deed and held it like it was the Holy Grail. Thank you, he said. Thank you so much. Mr. Pendergast packed up his bag and left. As soon as the front door closed, the atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. The concern vanished. The sweetness evaporated. Tara stood up and walked to the sideboard. She grabbed a bottle of Dom Perignon. Finally, she shouted, popping the cork. It hit the ceiling. Oh my God, Justin. We did it. We actually did it. She poured 2 glasses. She didn't pour one for me. To the Vances, Justin said, clinking his glass against hers. To the new owners. I sat there at the table, my hands folded in my lap. I watched them drink. I watched them high-five. I watched Tara pull out her phone to take a selfie with the deed. You know, I said, my voice dropping an octave. I shed the tremor. I shed the frailty. I spoke with the clear, commanding tone I used when I ran the cardiac ICU. I think we should watch a movie to celebrate. Tara lowered her phone. She looked at me confused. The change in my demeanor was subtle, but she felt it. A movie, she asked. Evelyn, it's late. You should go to bed. You've had a big day. I'm not tired, I said. I stood up. I didn't use the table for support. I stood up straight. My spine was steel. And I have the perfect video. I think you're going to find it very educational. I picked up the remote control for the large smart TV mounted on the dining room wall. Another one of their renovations. Mom, Justin asked, stepping back. You sound different, do I? I smiled. I feel different. I feel lucid. I pressed the button. I had cast the video from my laptop earlier. It was queued up and ready. The screen flickered to life. The image was crisp. It showed my kitchen. It showed the date and timestamp from 2 nights ago. It showed Tara standing at the counter. Justin and Tara froze. They stared at the screen. On the video, Tara reached into her bag. She pulled out the pill press. She pulled out the bag of white powder. Clack, clack, clack. The sound of the machine pressing the sugar pills filled the dining room. Then on the screen, Justin walked in. Is it done? Video, Justin asked. Almost video, Tara replied. She is tough. Old goat, but her heart is weak. One big shock. One bad night. That is all it will take. I paused the video right on Tara's face. The silence in the dining room was absolute. You could hear the hum of the refrigerator. I turned to look at them. Tara was white as a sheet. The champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. Justin was trembling, but this time it wasn't from excitement. What? Justin stammered. What is that? That, I said calmly, is evidence. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. Elder abuse. You, Tara whispered. You were recording us? I was, I said. I have cameras in the kitchen, the hallway, the dining room. I pointed to the little black cube, plugged into the wall, right behind Justin's head. He spun around and looked at it with horror. You're not senile, Tara hissed. Her eyes narrowed. You faked it. I'm a nurse, Tara, I said. I know what a placebo is, and I know what sugar tastes like. Justin lunged for the deed on the table. It doesn't matter. We have the house. You signed it. It's ours. Read the deed, Justin, I said. He looked down at the paper. I signed it, I continued, but the property description? That's not this address. That's for a plot of swampland in Florida. My husband bought in the 80s as a joke. It's worth about $500. What? Justin screamed, but we paid the lien. We paid the $200,000. Yes, I smiled. The tax lien, that was a lie too. There is no lien. You wired that money to a blind trust. My trust. Thank you for the early retirement bonus, by the way. I plan to use it to repair the wall you tore down. You stole our money, Tara shrieked. She lunged at me. You bitch, give it back. She didn't get far. The front door burst open. Recovery is a funny thing. In the hospital, we tell patients that healing is a straight line, but in reality, it is a series of small victories. It is the first breath that doesn't hurt. It is the first night you sleep through without waking up in a cold sweat. For me, recovery wasn't just about my heart. It was about reclaiming my sanctuary from the infection that had almost killed me. 6 months have passed since the night of the arrest. I am currently sitting in my sunroom. The light is pouring in through the new windows. The wall between the kitchen and the dining room has been rebuilt. I hired a lovely contractor named Mike who doesn't talk about feng shui and actually knows how to frame a load-bearing beam. He painted the kitchen a soft yellow. It smells like lemon polish and fresh coffee, not kale smoothies in desperation. My health has stabilized. It turns out that when you take actual pharmaceutical-grade Sodalol instead of compressed sugar, your heart works just fine. My resting heart rate is a steady 72. I walk 3 miles every morning. I have gained 5 pounds, and Marge says I no longer look like a reanimated corpse. As for the tumor I excised from my life, the prognosis for them is not good. Tara turned on Justin before the handcuffs were even tight. Her lawyer tried to argue that she was a victim of coercion, but the video evidence was irrefutable. The pill press was in her bag. Her fingerprints were on the mechanism. She took a plea deal to avoid a 20-year sentence. She is currently serving 8 years at a minimum security facility in downstate Illinois. I heard through Marge, who has a cousin in the corrections department, that Tara is having a hard time. Apparently, there are no ring lights in prison, and the other inmates do not appreciate her advice on manifesting abundance. She works in the laundry room now, it seems fitting. She tried to wash her hands of the crime, but now she will be washing jumpsuits for a decade. Justin fared worse because he procured the funds from the loan sharks, and because his fingerprints were on the pills Marge tested, he was charged as a co-conspirator. He got 5 years, but prison is the least of his worries. The $200,000 he borrowed and wired to my trust fund is gone. I didn't keep it. I didn't want their dirty money touching my clean accounts. Instead, I donated every single cent to the St. Jude's Cardiac Unit. I earmarked it specifically for a new educational program. It is called the Vance Initiative. It teaches elderly patients how to identify medication errors and detect elder abuse. I made sure they put a plaque with Justin and Tara's names on the wall of the waiting room. It seemed only right that they should finally contribute something positive to the world of cardiology, even if it was involuntary. The loan sharks, however, did not get a tax write-off. They are still looking for their money. Justin sits in his cell in protective custody, terrified of the day he gets released. He traded a life of comfort for a life of looking over his shoulder. My phone rang on the table. It was Friday afternoon. The weekly call from the correctional facility. I looked at the caller ID. Inmate call from Justin Vance. For the first few months I didn't answer. I let it ring until the silence filled the house. But today I felt strong. Today I felt like the head nurse who could handle a difficult patient. I picked up. "Hello, Justin," I said. Mom, his voice was thin and shaky. It sounded like he had been crying. "Mom, please don't hang up." "I am here, Justin. I need commissary money," he stammered. "The food here is awful, and I need to pay for protection. There are guys in here who know who I owe money to on the outside. They are threatening me." I took a sip of my tea. Earl Grey. Hot. Real. "That sounds very stressful, Justin," I said calmly. "It is," he sobbed. "Mom, please. Just a few $100. You have the house. You have the insurance. You have everything. I have my life," I corrected him. "Because I saved it from you." "Mom, I am sorry," he pleaded. I was weak. She made me do it. "No, Justin," I said, my voice hard as diamonds. "She gave you the gun, but you pulled the trigger. You watched me struggle to breathe. You watched me faint. You handed me sugar while my heart was failing, and asked how long it would take for me to die. That isn't weakness. That is malice." Silence on the line. Just the static of the prison connection. "I am your son," he whispered. "And I am a nurse," I replied. "And I know that sometimes to save the patient, you have to amputate the limb that is rotting." I hung up. I blocked the number. I sat there for a moment, listening to the beat of my own heart. Lube-dub. Lube-dub, it was strong. It was independent. It didn't need anyone else to keep it going. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. I opened my medicine cabinet. My pills were there in their orange bottles, organized perfectly. I took one out. I swallowed it with a glass of water. Then I walked out into my garden. The hydrangeas were blooming, blue and purple and vibrant. They had survived the neglect. They had survived the invasion. And just like me, they were turning their faces toward the sun, ready to grow. I am Evelyn Vance. I am 66 years old. And I plan on living for a very, very long time. And that, ladies, is what we call a clean bill of health. Evelyn didn't just survive. She thrived. She took the poison they tried to feed her and turned it into the fuel she needed to burn their little scheme to the ground. It is a terrifying thought, isn't it? That the danger isn't always a stranger in a dark alley. Sometimes it is the person smiling at you across the breakfast table. But Evelyn taught us that we have to trust our instincts. If something tastes wrong, spit it out. If something feels wrong, investigate it. And never ever let anyone tell you that you are confused when you know you are just observant. I want to know what you think. If you were in Evelyn's shoes, would you have donated the money? Or would you have bought yourself a vacation home in Italy? Personally, I think I would have taken the trip, but the plaque in the hospital is a nice touch. Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your medicine cabinet locked.